What strikes me the most in terms of nature is our tendency as humankind to put nature as a thing different to us when it comes to representation. When I look back in my old writings, I can clearly see that for whatever reason, I too viewed myself as a separate identity than nature. Shakespeare's King Lear offers a possibly interesting viewpoint to analyze these claims. The reason I find Shakespeare to be very explanatory regarding nature is because he is known for his talent of portraying human nature. There are critics who suggest that nature is used as a symbol by Shakespeare instead of a representation by itself, to suggest hierarchy in human nature. Although it may seem like a social construct indeed, when we look at life itself, it is for some reason mostly rainy on the days we don't feel okay. Not only Lear's storm, but Othello's jealousy, Cleopatra's desire to be wanted, Jacques's questioning, and Portia's mercy all give us a glimpse from nature itself. Perhaps it is hilarious how we forget to count ourselves as a part of nature, while the mere way we see it is through our own eyes. I was not even aware that I also thought nature as a thing within itself, a thing to refer to, and a thing so alienated from myself or us that it had to be talked about. But the mere reality is that nature neither is all those things nor none of them. If there was a certain thing that nature was, be it a subject or objects that it brings, it would all be entirely within itself. How can we define the border of nature anyway? Is nature not who made us, and is nature not who accommodates us, which is something within our veins and breath? Who is to say the very writers who wrote those pieces about nature and their very writing is not a production of nature itself? Aren't we just nature representing itself then? Perhaps our view that we are so different or special to be not counted as a part of nature fails us in the very fact that nature itself forces us to think and write about itself. That aside, I do believe that art and nature are very related things. Poetry, writing, drawing are all forms of expression. Who is to say that art isn't the language of nature? Very related to this comes the issue of nature's representation through groups, which inevitably involves societies of human race. There also comes a realization where we have to realize that since we are humans, it is only natural that we write in regards to ourselves, since we do not have the perspective of an elephant, as we don't even quite much have each other's perspectives. And even though the entire definitions of nature, such as scientific classifications and what we see here as groups in society, are found by us to begin with, they do seem to give us the most accurate representation of nature as well. Animals, plants, and all living things live in colonies, and so do we. Which is why it is understandable that for the human mind, observing its society is equal to observing its nature. Society is, in a way, our habitat and therefore our nature. I have this notion that everything we do and everything we feel is or stems from nature. The desire to be cool, the wish to be loved, the feeling of loneliness, bullying. The social hierarchy is just a more personal as relating to humankind, construct that we've found to make it sound more like us. If it wasn't for money, everybody knows that the smartest and strongest would stay alive. What humans succeeded in doing is to make another way of living and make themselves believe that it is entirely different from nature. Every human emotion, from anxiety to happiness, all comes from the simple act of being, yet we still don't feel like we belong when we are with each other. And although I don't have the statistics, it seems possible to me that nature tries to kill itself as much as it tries to protect itself. The cycle of life is very similar. One dies, another one is born. Furthermore, we also discussed an idea that there is, eventually, no such thing as nature. I understand the nature of the argument, though it seems strange. Nature is perhaps neither a placeholder, nor a law, nor fantasy, even though this was the second idea that interested me the most. I still have an assumption that it is secretly the very same idea that nature is everything. Another thing that I find interesting is how we find our own values and ideas and relate them to some sort of decay in nature. As a hitchhiker who made a film about hitchhiking while hitchhiking, I learned a lot of things about nature. Like Kerouac on the road, I was also able to, even for a moment, speak the language of nature. When we look at people, as we have seen so far, we see nature. I've never met anybody who hasn't met anybody with trauma. And we believe it isn't meant to happen, that we are supposed to be happy just because we are so different. But we forget that we are still ruled by strength and pure evil as well as goodness and beauty. There is a sadness in life that completes itself with the beauty and hope. What nature offers us atone for what it takes from us. For every traumatic experience that we see in animals and nature that we see in ourselves, we see another form of art. Which seems like nature is a baby learning to talk by sacrificing itself. Is there ever a more beautiful moment than being born? Perhaps there is no meaning behind nature. Whether it is because there is no nature or we are within nature. Or maybe nature is the God, not knowing what it is doing, just like an average human being. As much as mercy there is in nature, that much cruelty is also there. Many animals don't care about their own kind unless it is their own kin. And even then, they don't care for too long. Although I would definitely try to do everything in my power to protest anything against nature as well, some part of me whispers silently that what we know as nature possibly is doing this to itself. That, and we don't even know if what we live in is just an updated version of nature. Maybe nature wasn't meant to be trees and calm and peace and birds for the rest of time. No matter how hard we try, we cannot rule our time in the world. Nothing in our lives is certain. What I found interesting when I first started hitchhiking was that even though there was no B plan, which could mean no shelter for the night, we always, somehow, found a way out. It was almost like the less we controlled, the more we had. Nature gives us the chance to live and write in all of this uncertainty, and every notion regarding nature interests me further for this reason, as it is also a way to listen to what nature has to say about itself.